So here we're going to find the conjugate, and the conjugate is just finding the opposite sign right here. So the conjugate of 5 minus the square root of b is going to be 5 plus the square root of b. So all you're doing is changing the sign in the middle. So if we're looking at the square root of 6 plus y, our conjugate is going to be the square root of 6 minus y. And this will help when we're trying to rationalize denominators. So in the first problem where we're rationalizing the denominator, we're looking at the square root of 5x over 3y. The first thing we want to do, because 3 does not divide into 5 evenly and the x's and y's don't cancel or reduce, we are going to break it up. So we'll have the square root of 5x over the square root of 3y. Now what we want to do is rationalize the denominator, which means we want to get the radical out of the denominator. So we're going to multiply by 1, and we're going to multiply by whatever we need in this radical right here to clear it. So in this case, because it's a square root, I need a pair of 3's and a pair of y's. I already have one of each, so I'm going to multiply by one of each of the other. So I have the square root of 3y over the square root of 3y. You can multiply by 1 and make it look like anything you need to. So on the top, we're going to get 5 times 3, which is 15, and x times y will just be xy. In the denominator, we have the square root of 3y squared. We have 3 squared because we have 2 of those, and y squared because we have 2 of those. That creates a square root of something that's squared, which will get us 15xy, because the top won't reduce at all, over 3y. And that's all you have to do on that problem. Now, another problem that we might do is one that is similar to what we just did up here with the conjugates. So if we're given a problem that's 6 over 8 minus the square root of 3, here we want to clear the radicals, and then to do that, we're going to have to multiply by the conjugate. So the conjugate is going to be 8 plus the square root of 3. All I did was change the sign in the middle, and I got to multiply by 1 because what we do to the bottom, we do to the top. So on the top, we're going to have 6 times 8 plus the square root of 3. And on the bottom, we don't have to multiply all of it out because we have the difference of squares right here. This is a plus, this is minus, they're exactly the same. So if we multiply them out, the middle terms will disappear. They'll cancel each other out. So we really only have to multiply the 8's together and the square roots of 3 together. So that'll get us 8 times 8 is 64, minus square root of 3 times square root of 3 will be the square root of 3 squared. So I'm just going to bring the top along until I know if it's going to reduce at all. So this will be 64 minus the square root of 3 squared is just going to get us 3. So this will end up being 61 on the bottom. Well, 61 won't reduce with 6, so we can go ahead and multiply this out. 6 times 8 is 48. 6 times the square root of 3 is just 6 the square root of 3. So I'm okay if you leave it like this. In the homework, you may have to break it up into 2 fractions, but for me, this answer will be okay. If you do have to break it up into fractions, it would be 48 over 61 plus 6 over 61 times the square root of 3. But either one would be okay for me.